Good morning, everyone. My name is Abby Ilkay, founder of Smart Girls HQ. So, we asked over 50 parents to rate the importance of STEM education for their daughters. And by STEM, I mean science, technology, engineering, and math. And the average response was a 10. Then we asked the same parents to rate their ability and comfort level in facilitating STEM informal learning, and the average response was a 4. This disconnect between parents' aspirations for their daughters and their ability to foster those interests is an important one to resolve. Why? Because by age 12, girls start to lean away from STEM education at a much higher rate than their male peers because they haven't had enough experiences with it to inspire long term engagement. That single fact is a key contributor to why we only have 28% of women participating in the STEM workforce and ultimately impacts the deficit of STEM talent that we have in the US across many sectors. As a mom of two girls under age 12 myself, and with my personal experiences over the last 20 years as a student studying computer science undergrad, then as an employee and employer of STEM talent, I understand this pipeline problem well. So to address this, we're building a subscription-based learning platform that delivers 36 modules of STEM informal learning content optimized for high engagement with girls, and that removes the needs for an expert facilitator. Our modules offer rich hands-on experiences and interactive digital learning around STEM careers, so that with each of our modules, we put every girl on a path to STEM career literacy by age 12. Especially in a pandemic, as parents struggle to fill up their young children's time meaningfully, the availability of a product like this becomes really important. Our very first module became available for pre-orders on October 1st and begins shipping tomorrow, which we're really excited about that. So we're looking to raise 250K to help scale the development of more modules so we can quickly get to our recurring revenue business model in the next 12 months.
I think this may be a record that all 3 finished in under 2 minutes. No.
Yes.
Hey,
That makes me happy. But Chris, let's go ahead.
hey, Abby, great job. I mean, so I'll always say in this format, when you think about the idea of having 2 minutes with an investor, or really any format, the number one goal is to get the next meeting, if you will, or to get a deeper dive. And I think that, while you didn't go through the full blown every aspect we look for, you piqued my interest, right? I think you set up the problem exceptionally well. And sort of piqued my curiosity. I'd want to say, hey, let me dig in a little bit more. So I think you did a great job on that end. I also have a daughter in that age. She's 12, almost 13, but I've lived that. I guess a couple of questions is, one, you mentioned that you're rolling out module number 1. Has that been pre-sold in any way? Can you explain any of the traction that you already have? So that's
Yeah.
one. I think secondarily on that same end is, can you tell me exactly how you're creating awareness for the product and how you're driving kind of those early sales within there?
Yep. So I'll answer question 1 first and then go to 2 because they relate. So when we started on this journey and the more that we learned about the problem, we realized that if you're going to sell to parents, especially around education and their children, you really have to come off as a subject matter expert. So we spent a
Mhm.
lot of time building a brand around being the subject matter expert for parents of girls. So we do connect with parents through our brand, Raising Smart Girls. That's been live for 2 years while we've been doing
Mm.
customer discovery to figure out the product. And ultimately, that's the audience that we're delivering this product to. So we launched the product October 1st just by email and social media. We've sold over 200 so far that we're going to start shipping tomorrow. And one of the exciting things that we got out of the last week and a half of watching the launch response is people reading our value prop back to us, right? Is essentially hearing, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing I've seen in a while. My girls are going to love this. And it's a mix of audience. It's not people that are typically STEM people. It's just the creative aspect of it. And so just to help you understand a little bit, I have like the first one right next to me. So we ship out a box like this. It says, Dear Smart Girl, you can design and light up a headband with parallel circuits. This one is an electrical engineering module. So all of our modules are going to be wrapped around a specific career so that we want the girls to know this is this concept ties to this career, and then give them an activity to explore it. So this particular activity ends up, they get all the supplies to make a headband that looks like this. They can design it the way that they want, but the circuit is all wrapped up inside, and they get to light it up. And then, they learn enough about it that they can use that same concept and apply it to other things. And that seems to be really exciting for both the parents and also the children.
Interesting. Yeah, I've done like the snap circuits and other robotic
Exactly.
kits
There's a
and
lot
things
of
like that.
robotics.
So
Yes.
yeah. Well, that helps. I think also the two other things I'd say, and then I'll let Chris kind of jump in, which is the way that you helped me bridge the gap of, hey, we've been operating as an authority within like training and we focused on girl education. I think that's a really important setup to how you then move into kind of selling the product. So I think being able to articulate that is really great. And then also kind of helping me paint the picture of what that product is. My initial thought was something like a Duolingo, like an online module that someone goes through and it's been tailored in some form or
It's
fashion
both. Yeah.
where I learn. But
Yeah.
now that I see it's actually interactive
And
kits and things
yeah.
like that, I think that paints an entirely different picture and opens up a bunch of other questions
Yeah.
for me. But I'll let Chris kind of jump in on that.
Yeah. So it was a good presentation. Thank you. The idea is you're going to sell these boxes, like the Dear Smart Girl on your website is an example, and there's going to be a series of those, correct?
Yes.
Good. And each time there's some related craft that the kid would do and all that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like a great opportunity to cultivate community,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because like obviously these are children are going to make things, and there's going to be things to look at and that sort of deal. What sort of community aspect do you intend to build along with this?
Yeah, so that's really why we started out with Raising Smart Girls, is really to be able to make that the community space. So our plans for our website is to incorporate the digital learning component. So with more funding, we're able to really execute on our vision. But the idea is that our website has all of the community aspects where parents can connect to each other, and can kind of do these maker dates. One of the fun things we saw in our pre-launch conversations is people buying it for a group of girls to do Zoom calls and do it together. So that's already naturally happening, and we want to be able to facilitate that with our platform as well.
Sure. And you say you've sold 200 of these of the initial the electrical engineer model. You've already sold module. You sold 200 of those.
Yeah.
And those are $40 each. Is that right?
Yep.
Great. And do you maintain inventory of those, or do you make them after they're sold?
So we had our initial goal for the first month, because really honestly we've been so busy building it that we haven't really spent too much time figuring out how we're going to get it out there, except for we know that we have our audience, was to sell 100. So we just like prepared to sell 100, and so now we did obviously go a little bit over that to be prepared in case we went
Great.
over. But now
Sure,
we're managing inventory. One thing that's important to note is my career experience for 13 years in technology was actually in a manufacturing firm. So I'm very comfortable with distribution and logistics in that sense. So a lot of my operational excellence work is coming right back, and we're starting to put in a flow of making sure that we have inventory in place to fulfill orders as we go. So right now we're planning for holiday sales,
right,
to make sure that we're prepared to cover those.
So I wanted to offer an observation. Your company is a little different than the other two companies that we've heard this morning, in that there's more of a mission associated with what you're doing than with the other two, which are just sort of straight like, hey, I'm a business and I'm here to sell you my stuff. I think that fundraising, when you're in a mission-oriented business, is especially challenging.
I agree.
Because a lot of times, sounds like you've experienced that. Because a lot of times, what you'll do, what an entrepreneur will do, is they'll go see the usual suspects, like for example, Idea Fund, and say, hey, here's my business, and they'll sort of put it up, for consideration. And you don't realize it, but you're in competition with lots and lots of other people who really they have a mission, but it's not a mission in the sense they're trying to do good,
Mhm.
right? They're really just trying to build a successful business. And so I think a lot of times professional investors are, and I'd be interested in Chris's response to this, professional investors are not as apt to take a risk on a mission driven thing before it has a lot of traction. So my connected to that observation is this. I think that when you go to raise money, the people that you should target should be folks who really are motivated by your mission, as opposed to the usual suspects in the venture community, or maybe in addition to the usual suspects in the venture community, because there is a person within 100 miles of us who is a very wealthy human who really cares about STEM for young women. Like, and they care about it because of their life story and
Mhm.
their career and their background. And, Carl's got a nice pitch and Swipe By Restaurant is fine, but that individual isn't going to he's going to be like, fine, Carl, good luck, you know, right? But Avi, you'd be the only one to walk in and touch that person's interest and what they really care about. And so I think if you intend to go fundraise for this business, the most critical thing for you is going to be research to
Yeah.
try and find
Person.
said person,
Yeah.
right? Because I think if you find 10 humans who meet that description, you're going to get the money, right? And if you pitch 50 venture firms, you're going to get 50 polite, supportive declines, or 49, a really big ratio. So my advice to you, if you're going to build this as a business, is really select who you target for fundraising.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll agree on that, right? I say, altruism and capitalism don't have to be mutually exclusive. And so when you can find the intersection of those two things, that's great. But, I think even beyond, whether you're mission oriented or not, I think 99% of most businesses should never take money from a venture capitalist, right? Because our expectation is,
yeah, totally.
The day you take my money, you've got 7 years to return $25 million to me. And that means reinvesting every nickel that you ever make, plus more, plus putting everything on the line and growing multiple 100%, like at infinity, because all I care about is my exit, right? I need a big exit so that my investors are happy. And it's, you kind of know what you're getting into when you sign up, but those can be very difficult things to manage when you have other ideas of stakeholders and constituents that you want to serve. And so, I think I agree with Chris, which is one, I think most businesses should start off with angels who then can continue to give them flexibility in the capital sources they seek long term, until they collectively agree that it's time to throw the gas on the fire and just throw everything in the middle of the table for the next 7 years and shoot for the stars. Because I think in this scenario, you're better to be capitalized with people who will look at a more balanced scorecard of what the returns on this investment is, who may even be happy with the idea that, you pay them dividend distributions one day and kind of pay them back in that sense, right? Again, that doesn't work for most institutional capital sources. And so I tend to agree on that end. I think, again, if you get 2 or 3 years in and you say, I have the world's largest community of parents interested in STEM education, I've got hundreds of products that I curate, I hold no inventory, I make an affiliate fee on it, I'm an asset light model, I clip a 10% coupon on hundreds of products every month. All of a sudden, then maybe that changes that perspective. But I love what you're doing. I think
Me too.
I think it's an important element to things. But I agree. I think you can probably find some folks within the community that sort of align on the altruism aspect right now and work on the capitalism long term.
Yeah, and that's the approach that we've taken from the very beginning. Was for that very reason. Is I really, before I took the leap to do this, I studied the path that made the most sense and was most feasible. And what made the most sense to me was, one, build the community, sell to that community. And I felt that my time would be probably most productive that way than to try to scan for the impact investors that would work. And I also felt like we needed to get to certain metrics before this could be interesting, just like you said, to an institutional investor. So
Abby, I think a thing that I do sometimes is I'll say to groups if I'm addressing them, is I'll say, I want to describe someone to you, right? And I'll describe the customer I want, right? And I want to know if you're that person or if you can introduce me to that person, right? And if you went to the groups that you're going to get in front of, because you're an engaging presenter and you've got an inspiring message, if you said, listen, I want to describe someone to you. This person's wealthy and they're willing to make an investment in a small company and they care a great deal about STEM and they care about a great deal about STEM specifically for young women, and you know them well enough to introduce me, right? I'd like for you to come tell me their name. If you do that, and by the way, everyone who's here today, right, I extend that challenge to you, right? If you know the person that I just described, I ask you to introduce Abby to them, because like you only need one, right? You only need one. But if you say that to 500 people, you're going to meet 10 targets, and you're going to get the money you want, and it's going to give you the fuel to go to the next stage with your company. So it's great, great presentation. I support what you're doing, and I really hope you're successful.
Thank you. Do you know that person, Chris?
I don't. Good question though. Chris does. He'll tell you after.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Abby. That was a great pitch. There were some comments and questions for you.